Ah.
Norman's been camping out on the local hills near a small town, a small village that has been beset by raiders every single night.
Ooh.
These raiders seem to be rather strange, though. When he's been out and about, the people have been very furtive, very quiet, and they talk about their leader being completely unstoppable.
Ooh.
So Norman, as he does, he stays on the hill to maybe observe. And as the night draws closer, he hears the hoofbeats in the distance closing in. A few scattered torches on the horizon. As they draw closer, he sees skeletal riders come into view. And at their head, on the back of a barded nightmare, a horse with a flaming mane, he sees fully armoured, red-eyed, a Death Knight leading him.
Oh, crops.
Here we go, boys.
Death Knight?
Yeah.
You've gone and picked potentially my favourite monster.
It had to be dropped at some point, I guess.
Death Knight?
You wanted something that was going to get a very high rating, and I'm going to be real, I had it between one creature that I rate higher and this. The other creature that I rate higher, I didn't know how much you would enjoy drawing.
That's fair enough. Welcome, by the way, to Challenge Raiders. It's the show where we talk about a D&D monster, we give it a rating out of 20, and I draw it at the same time. And, I'm Theo. That's who I am.
I'm Neil, social media mogul.
I'm Sam, worldwide renowned Twitch-affiliated streamer.
Okay, Death Knight. I'm gonna have to... Again, because I have gone on the record in the past saying this is my favourite monster, so I think I have to... You've given me a challenge to draw something good.
Well, in the space of 2 weeks, we could see, like, the diametric opposites of the scale. The Nupperibo on one end, and this on the other.
That is, for one thing, yeah, we are coming hot, fresh-ish off Nupperibo a while ago.
Nupperibo gate.
That was a real...
Nupperibo gate, yeah.
That was a real mistake on my part to be alive when that happened. So maybe this might be one. This might as well be one I do 2 drawings for, like I did with Vampire, because I have read Death Knight. I think I'm familiar with most of its stuff, but it's been a long while, and I don't think I've read the lore thing about him for a long time.
So basically, Sam, the crux of what a Death Knight is when a paladin dies after they've fallen from grace.
All right.
Without seeking atonement or, like, coming back to terms with whatever, like, cast them out. They retain their kind of divine powers, but they can no longer heal. And they are undead and pretty malevolent.
They've kind of been, consumed by those kind of misdeeds, if you would.
Yeah. Like, they are the fallen knight. They're basically playing an anti-paladin or something taken to the extreme, you know. The necromancer who becomes a lich, the evil paladin who becomes a Death Knight.
Right. That's the kind of level we're talking at here.
Oh, yeah. And what's rather interesting about them, they don't have a very large lore section.
Right.
But the part that is very interesting to us as using creatures for what they are is that they're often lieutenants of maybe a bigger bad.
People often think of the ring wraiths of Lord of the Rings as being Death Knights, for example.
Right. Yeah. That seems like a very good comparison to make.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They're often the lieutenants who, you know, maybe have sworn themselves or anything, and they often command undead around them. Or if they were, for instance, in service to a demon, they may command the demon's armies. They are people still, right. I think is part of what's important about it, is they are still people. I mean, they've got int 12, 16 wisdom, 18 charisma. And then there's one interesting line, and it's only maybe 20-line section, which is that they're immortal until they're redeemed.
I forgot about that, and that's actually very interesting.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Cool. I knew I liked him for a reason.
A Death Knight can arise anew even after it has been destroyed. Only when it atones for its life of wickedness or finds redemption can it finally escape its undead purgatory and truly perish. So this is a
creature that you're going to want to... It's very evil, obviously, but this is something that you kind of always have to make redeemable. If you want to follow this lore and this interesting mechanic for it, which is not the easiest thing to do, I should say, in D&D. Like, I don't know, most of the evil stuff is just, man, this thing's super evil and must die. Whereas this is something that if you want it to stay dead, you're gonna have to, maybe do a quest for it without it even wanting you to.
I think that this is very much a recurring, not maybe character in the same way, but a recurring mention, or a recurring sight of, the Death Knight in question, and have him specifically be, for instance, the knight who was, noble in life. Yeah. He did all these great just things that maybe the party can see or maybe in some ways reenact. Then, of course, they find out that, oh, hang on a minute, the undead guy leading the enemy armies is this awesome knight guy. Yeah. Tragic story of why that happened.
And of course, there's a very fair point that, like, the paladin oaths, you can break your oath without becoming super evil, depending on what your oath is. Maybe this is a Death Knight who broke his oath and he's evil because it's an undead in the service to an evil lord, but maybe it became a Death Knight because it sacrificed being faithful to its oath for the greater good, and has thus become a cursed creature.
Or even it just made the individual who was a paladin in life made maybe a very impulsive, bad decision that they do not regret.
Yeah, exactly.
You could do something. What I've got in my head is that they were tricked to break that oath by the person who now controls them.
That's fun. Yeah. Because then
that's very strong.
Then you can have them maybe turn them into an ally, and defeating the thing that has turned them becomes the quest to redeem them, and they could become a powerful ally in that. That could be very cool.
I don't know how correct I am in this.
Sure.
But this is coming to my mind. I believe the person who slew Vecna, like the weapon that you get to defeat Vecna, was a Death Knight who served him.
Yeah, I remember. I've read about that. The hand and Iron Vecna are not what got cut off from Vecna. They are what's left of Vecna after he got fought by that guy, which is crazy.
I know we sometimes say that the character writes itself almost. Yeah. But the archetype is so good to use in a fantasy setting of the evil villain who is still maybe noble.
To be fair though, it's Darth Vader. It's Darth Vader
It's Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Darth Vader, if he wasn't undead, I mean, you could argue Darth Vader is an undead. He's more
did die, kind
he's
of.
more machine than man now. Anyway. I never really considered Death Knights using them in that using them deliberately to make them be like an anti-hero. I had not actually considered that because I like them being villains, but that actually worked really well for like an anti-hero. And in a way, you could definitely say that that's kind of the way they're supposed to be used, almost.
Yeah, I was going to ask like how I guess obviously the book leaves it open, but like how you would play it with that. Like, does it talk about how willing they are to like?
Yeah, are they actually just themselves?
Like
or
how aware are they? Yeah, are they just them now, but a skeleton? Not to.
honestly,
is it an interpretation thing?
It does not have that in the monster manual. There's a little box here that talks about a specific Death Knight, a famous one.
Oh, okay.
It talks about the story of Lord Soth, who might be a name I've heard of. Yeah. Long story short, because literally the Lord Soth story is about as long as the Death Knight section.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Long story short, he basically did not complete his quest he was given to save the land because he was worried about his wife's fidelity.
Oh, right.
That kind of absorbed him and kind of drove him mad.
Yeah.
The land then fell to ruin because he didn't save the day.
What a fool.
And then in the end he snapped and injured those he loved. Yeah. Because everything went terrible for him, and then in death he became a Death Knight.
Yeah. That's cool.
Because he was fully consumed by it.
If you have a post-apocalyptic, in a way, isn't like the world is maybe ruled by evil, there's evil everywhere, and you could have a Death Knight act as a like a mentor to a party. He's like, it turns out the guy who's been like teaching you heroic stuff, turns out he's the failed hero of a previous generation, and now he has to do that. And when you guys do your heroing good, he can die in peace.
Very small lore section for this creature, so it's going to be a lot of us talking about how to use this, like Ghost, really. I love what you said about the mentor idea. Their alignment, strictly speaking, is more chaotic evil.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Right.
because I think that's probably more the masters they serve, and they're shifting more emotionally fueled pain. But like the idea of a mentor character who's very maybe callous, about life, and then there's that moment where that his goals no longer align with the party's. And he has that moment where the party, he has to stop them.
Right.
Like maybe he hasn't been seen for a long time, and then he's in the road between the evil castle and there. And then it's up to you how you resolve that.
Yeah, exactly.
Having him be a fight is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of which, you don't want to fight these guys.
Yeah, I remember there's a few things that they've got.
They're pretty tough, aren't they?
Yeah, the challenge rating 17.
This is one of the tougher ones we've done. Obviously, Kaijun we did mostly like challenge rating 20 stuff, but I think we've not gone this high very often.
Challenge rating 17, AC 20, immunities to necrotic and poison,
of course,
immune to fear, frightened, all that stuff.
Yeah.
He has magic resistance, so advantage on saving throws against spells.
Okay, yeah.
Martial undead, mean all undead within 60 feet of him have advantage on saving throws against turn
That's
undead.
Cool. I didn't remember that. That's cool.
He is a 19th level spellcaster.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So
okay.
His charisma save is DC 18 with a plus 10 to hit on all his spells.
Yeah.
Oh god.
And he has some cool ones, like he has Compelled Duel.
Oh, Compelled Duel's awesome. I love Compelled Duel. It's really silly, but...
And he has the Smites, Banishment, Destructive Wave, only necrotic.
Oh, right, yeah, because you can choose damage,
like multi-attack, he makes 3 attacks, plus 11 to hit. 1d8 plus 5.
Plus 11, holy crumb.
Yeah.
That is...
What?
I love these guys.
Yeah.
I love these guys because they're so strong as well. It's great.
1d8 plus 5, plus 4d8 necrotic.
Jesus Christ.
And that's 3 attacks. Bam, bam, bam. And then he has his once per day Hellfire.
I was waiting for you to say that so I can finally draw what goes in this hand.
his beam, or his spirit
He's
bomb.
got a Dragon Ball, and now we get to the reason why I love this. He's got a Dragon Ball attack. He's got a Freezer Ball. Anyway.
The Death Knight hurls a magical ball of fire that explodes at a point it can see within 120 feet of it. Each creature in a 20-foot radius of the sphere centered on that point makes a DC 18 dexterity saving throw.
Ooh.
The sphere spreads around corners. It does 10d6 fire damage and 10d6 necrotic damage.
Ow!
It's a big ball.
That is a.
It's basically like we've had some fun. Now it's time to die.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a big scary fiery ball. Hellfire orb. Again, it's just ridiculous.
You can imagine the fight. You're having a sword fight, which, by the way, again, he's got Compelled Duel, Smites, and as a reaction, he has Parry.
Oh, does he parry? That's awesome.
Yeah. Nice. Which means he gets to add 6 to his AC against one melee attack.
Yeah, that's awesome.
26 AC when he parries, so it's just tink.
Blocking, isn't it? Really, 26.
Yeah, I mean.
And then when you get him down to half health, he busts out the orb.
Yeah, exactly. Because the orb is like a one-time thing, isn't it? You can't. It's once a day.
It's once a day.
Again, once a day, implying here that this might be a guy that maybe you run away from and fight more than once because you're not ready.
Or he comes back.
Or again, he comes back because he can't die.
Can't die. Yeah.
Until you complete his quest.
You know what? You could even have him not Hellfire Orb in the first encounter with the party.
Yeah. That could be awesome. Now, I am aware that I am just drawing a skeleton because I like drawing skeletons. And the problem with the Death Knight is they wear like plate mail, and there's no point in being a skeleton if you wear plate mail because no one can see your bones. So this is what's compelling me to maybe draw 2. I might draw this one and then draw one who is in armor because I like to draw armor, but I prefer to draw bones.
We're not going to complain.
Yeah. I'm fine with seeing 2 images.
We're gonna get some like tatters of like a cape though. Because that's fun.
The Death Knight, the idea of a duel.
Yeah.
It's so clear that this is like what that character wants to do.
Yeah, and because this is a character because even like a paladin who's broken their oath doesn't mean they have to not act like a paladin. It just means that their oath has been broken for whatever reason. They're still going to potentially be incredibly martial and like trained and honourable in a weird way, potentially.
Yeah, I feel that like with the descriptions that's given, they have very much gone that little bit further than we're kind of like saying that they have. That they have not just forsaken but gone against and done
sure, yeah. They're not. Otherwise, this would happen too often. I think. For one thing,
there'd be too many of them roaming around.
Yeah, it's presumably not only have you gone against your oath, it's not just failing your oath. It's like going completely against it and
desecrating
and being like presumably also someone powerful. You're not going to be a level 1 paladin, do something bad, and then become a Death Knight when you die. That's not how it goes.
Like in the little description of Lord Soth.
Yeah.
He gets the fire that he starts that ends up killing his family. Sure. He is caught in as well, but he doesn't get rest. He gets up.
Oh, gross! He's Kratos.
Yeah, and then exactly, yeah. He gets up, and that's like the Death Knight is born in the scorched halls of the castle.
Right.
And you can potentially use the way the Death Knight has fallen from grace to like learn about how to permanently kill it. And in a way, like this is actually very much like the Ring Wraiths in that the Aragorn fights the Ring Wraiths and they run away, but they keep coming back, and there's they will not die until the ring is destroyed. And this is something that like the only thing that makes it difficult for Death Knight is you can't like have this guy come at a low-level party and like be a recurring villain from that. And that you could figure it out, but
that's the thing. I tried to do that.
Oh yeah.
In my Sunday campaign, which I sometimes talk about, I have my undead party.
Yeah, they're all undead.
Yeah. And they were being hunted by agents of the Raven Queen.
Yeah.
And I had basically her champion be a Death Knight.
That's fun, yeah. Makes sense.
The long and short story of it is that I wanted to have the big encounter early on.
Yeah, to set them up.
That was very much stacked against them, play against type, have the big epic fight. And I was doing all that, but then it was like, story-wise though, like, they've earned this win. They're trying so hard.
Matt Culver's got a video about it as well, where it's like, it makes so much like narrative sense, but players don't like to lose and will not run away. It's so hard to get people to run away, and we're all very much aware, and like can probably think of half a dozen times when that's like been true.
It's compound failure. You don't know, the group doesn't notice they're failing until it's too late.
Yeah. I think Culver's got like the example where it's like the party realizes 3 turns after they should have fled that they should start fleeing, and then starts fleeing 3 turns after that. And it's
exactly.
I think we had that with me suplexing that larger enemy crab.
the big crab, yeah. And just more recently, like we had an encounter with a lot of wolves, and it would have been completely reasonable, if you think about it, for us to try and get out of that situation.
Yeah.
But with some lucky rolling, we were fine. But it's just one of those things where the player mentality is either you start the encounter thinking the DM's put us here because we can fight it and we can win. Yes. You don't think you don't go into things thinking this is something that we're going to lose. You think this is something that we are meant to be overcoming. And by the time you realise that maybe you're supposed to be losing, it might be too late.
I think that can also happen as well if you haven't... Again, I guess it doesn't really happen so much more with, like, the current how D&D and DMs run stuff, but if you're, like, playing along and playing in the game, you generally don't expect, like, you haven't got the whole, I've, like, annoyed the DM, this is, like, a punishment thing.
Yeah,
like, there isn't that anymore. Like, as you say, all encounters, you probably go into them thinking, well, we've, like, done logical things.
We won't all die if we...
We haven't run to, like, the main bad guys, like, castle. We're doing logical things, so this should be fine, probably.
And I think the thing about like unwinnable fights is like you should if you really want to do one, you should have a system that means that the party will survive even if they like are like pig-headed about it. Which of course you know is that they're all undead and they come back to life. So that works out. You could more easily do that, but like you can do it for some reason. But like if you were to use a Death Knight early, he could like wipe the party very quickly, and you could just say he's just doing non-lethal damage for whatever reason. And you could think of a decent character reason, probably.
I feel that something that can't be overstated to any of you newer DMs out there would be that you sit down with your players at the start of your game.
Yeah.
Session 0 is very important.
And you let them know what type of game they're in for.
Sure, yeah.
And if you explicitly tell them that sometimes there might be a creature which is too much for you.
Yeah.
And you guys should be keeping an eye out for if things are getting a bit too far of you, and don't be afraid to run.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, like, it's on the DM to make it obvious when that's the case, but if you can't make your Death Knight obviously too strong for the party, then again, like, come on. You gotta...
This is where cutscenes come in.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
You have him Hellfire Orb a squadron of soldiers.
And they all die.
Yeah, of, like, decent... Like, these are elite guys or whatever.
Or the captain of the guard of the small town that you're in is slayed by him in single combat.
Yeah, exactly.
Without a sweat.
Yeah.
Important NPC is absolutely demolished by him.
I can imagine, like, if you got, like, a Lich who's trying to, like, conquer a large area, he can send out his Death Knight, and the Death Knight's like, he's got an army of undead, and he's like, either you come out here and duel me, and if I win, I take it, or I just, like, send my army in, and we conquer you by force.
That's very good.
And then, like, Captain of the Guard, or, like, the local, like, maybe even, like, the party's, like, fighters, like, okay, well, I'll take you on, I will try. And then,
Ex-adventurer.
Yeah, something like that. It could be a really good, like, start to a campaign, because it, like, very clearly says, you can't fight this guy, but if he's, like, they're conquering land, he's not there wiping out everyone, then that might be a case where the party will not be happy to surrender, but that they could potentially use that, and if you're good at it, then you can use them being annoyed at the enemy to point them in a good direction, I think.
And I think a little bit of help with the party could be again letting them know, if we're doing something like this, that this is going to be a hot open, guys.
Right? Yeah.
You should be ready for something big to maybe happen quickly.
Yeah, we're not going to sit around in the starting tavern for 3 hours.
We're not starting in the tavern, yeah.
Start the tavern, Death Knight walks in. Whoops.
I mean, that I'm already loving the idea of everything we talked about the Death Knight coming to town and basically giving that ultimatum. And maybe, they lose, but the town doesn't open its gates. He unleashes his army, and the adventurers escape the town, fighting smaller undead or flying undead or something as they run.
And maybe you got maybe they bring out a group of refugees, so then it's not just just running out, because they're just running away. But if you give them you've got 50 people with you from your town,
your responsibility,
and how are you gonna? Because then you can because there's quite a lot of stuff in D&D, traveling can be quite trivial for parties, depending on how you play, of course. But I think
Banner Saga.
Yeah.
Is what we're talking about. Yeah,
totally. That could be quite interesting. That could be the whole campaign is you and the remainder of your town trying to get somewhere and trying to set up while being.
And maybe you're harried along the way.
And pursued by this. Maybe I could. I'm trying to think of what was strong. Was Death Tyrant stronger or weaker than Death Knight?
Death Tyrant is weaker.
I believe it's weaker.
Yeah. I'm thinking Death Knight riding a Death Tyrant.
There's no reason why a Lich couldn't have both.
Yeah, exactly.
Lieutenants,
and they can have a really fun, because beholders have this ridiculous overly dramatic personality stereotype in D&D. I could completely imagine a Starscream. Death Tyrant, and
I should be there.
And then the Death Knight is the completely calm, almost silent, but more reluctant.
He's the foil to
but he's the actual he's the more powerful of the two. Yeah, and that could be very fun.
I follow your commands, my lord.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're playing online, you can have a cool voice modulator to give yourself a spooky, hollow, echoey voice or something. That's always fun. I kind of like the idea of what was the spells that the Death Knight's got, because he's got his Hellfire because he's a really high level spellcaster. It was a
19th level.
Well, he only goes up to 5th level, and it says he's a 19th level, so I think it's just for DC.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
But he has hold person, magic weapon.
Okay, magic weapon, really?
His weapon
magic weapon's a really odd choice.
His weapon's not magic.
But I think if you're not giving your Death Knight a unique weapon, then come on, please.
Yeah,
that's true.
It also explicitly talks about them being mounted and stuff as well. There's nothing in here for that.
Sure. Well, then give him a Vorpal lance. But yeah, that's, as I say, like, it's a if they do like come from this sort of knightly idea, so giving them a horse makes sense. Also, battle commander is like they should have a horse. You should give them a horse.
These are all paladin spells as well.
And they're paladin spells, yeah. Because if you wanted to go into like even deeper levels of customization, if you wanted to think about what the oath was, because there's all the oath spells as well for paladins. So maybe giving them some of those as well could be cool.
And as a character, if you're thinking about the character before, what kind of person they were, what spells they'd have, go into that level.
I also feel that Death Knight can be the ending of a character who is a player.
Yeah, depending on what goes down, but yeah, you could have a player turn Death Knight. Why not?
The more tragic element maybe as well. You know, the more reluctant evil maybe. Like in my Sunday campaign Undead Party, I have an Oathbreaker.
Oh yeah.
Who I believe explicitly will be a Death Knight in death.
Sure, yeah, that's fair. It's definitely something like if you're playing a paladin and you kind of realize the path like your character's going on. It's something that like you could talk to your DM about. And if
my paladin is explicitly going to destroy his order.
Right, yeah.
Right, yeah, that would do it, I reckon.
That's the one.
His order are, they believe what they're doing right is good, but they are doing evil.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and he was raised in it, so he's going to explicitly go against it to destroy what they're doing. But that's cursing his soul.
Yeah. Tragic, but heroic.
The right thing.
And again, I mean, Death Knight, there's a couple reasons it's my favourite. As I say, I like a skeleton. I like a over-dramatic story. I don't necessarily know how much I like... Because I think having a player turning into one obviously can be very good, but I think you need to work really hard with the player and DM to make that come off really good. And it probably.
I thought that's a next campaign kind of thing, you know. Like
that's not like you shouldn't try and do that on your first run through. I don't think.
That's like an end, like after the end of this character's arc. This is what I see for my character.
Right. Yeah.
And then if you're one of those DMs who has a consistent world.
Yeah.
You have that NPC be this character who, you know, maybe interacts with the party a few times, maybe it's the basis of an adventure.
Yeah.
But is this, you know, force of, and then they could be like, oh my god, that's my guy.
What I will say in terms of like talking about like the basis of campaigns and stuff is that this is one of the few monsters where I've thought you couldn't really base a whole campaign around a Death Knight. Which is odd for a monster of its level. It's definitely would be easily a very big part of a campaign, but I think it needs not necessarily to be a minion, but like it needs other things. It has a
subservient nature, doesn't it?
Almost. Yeah. It just seems to like.
I think if you do, it's entirely possible that it's a campaign whose final boss fight ends in a conversation.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's one of those because they have this inherently this tragedy to them. Just killing it and then like you wouldn't necessarily feel good about killing it and like destroying it. I feel like you've done a good job if your party feels sad to have killed your Death Knight. That's a good character.
I guess you could have it where like it's like it's serving like a devil or something, and it's the chief agent on like this on the material plane, and there isn't really a way for the party to go down to the Nine Hells and like stop them. Yeah. So like. Stopping him is like the best thing that they can do. So that could be the way he'd be the main antagonist of a campaign, maybe. You could always have it be the phase of the adventure. You know, when it's escalating right at the end, that this Death Knight is the one who has a passageway between the hells. Totally, yeah.
And you either you kill him and take it to get there to defeat the big bad in hell where it matters, or his moment of redemption is not I fight the big bad or anything, it's just he lets you through.
Yeah.
And that's up to your players to do that bit. Like
to get to that stage where that could be an option.
Yeah, like it's pretty easy to make it apparent by talking about this guy being a good guy in life, maybe, and the tragedy that befell him.
Do you know the tragedy of Death Knight of the Wise?
And lean into that duelist honourable thing is what I would do.
Yeah.
Like, that duel the town guard shows that this guy has honour.
I think
that
if you go like if this is like a hero of legend, you can have like this place is named after him, the statues of him in life, and like folk stories of this guy wherever you go. It's like, oh, this guy came through here. In a way, you could follow the same like heroic path that they did. Like you maybe started in a similar area the first time you go to. Oh, this is where he did this first heroic deed, and
it could be named Hygersville or whatever.
Yeah, and
the guy's called Hyger.
Yeah, and as you progress through the world, you can like see how he did that as well, or she, of course, and like and if you introduce them early on, you could be like, this person's awful. I hate this villain. And then, like, learning more about their story. That could be something that'd be interesting. And maybe getting some of their old magic items. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be great for the fight.
Yeah.
Maybe he's forsaken a shield.
Maybe he's immune to all things apart from this one arrow. That'd be very Greek legend. That'd be...
Yeah.
But I love, like, that he's forsaken a weapon. That was like the weapon of his order. If he was...
He can't even use it anymore. He can't even hold it. It's burning.
And the weapon does extra damage to him.
Yeah, that'd be good. You could have something like, depending on the party makeup, you could have like a thing for each member of the party. Obviously, that would be constructed by the DM for it to work like that, but it wouldn't have to feel like that in game. But like, if there's a piece of equipment that everyone can have, that'll help in fighting him.
And let's not like go too far and say that like there are divine classes in D&D. If your paladin or cleric are explicitly from the same order. I mean, like the idea that an entire character's story could be about redeeming.
I think
this hero
to take that one step even further, if you have a paladin or cleric in the party that you DM for, you should consider making the Death Knight that, not just like by coincidence. You should. Yeah. It would be a missed opportunity, I think, to have them be different, because that actually makes some great storytelling, great fun.
Like
some great moments there, definitely.
And then again, your paladin or cleric can wield the weapon he can no longer wield.
Or maybe even the weapon that he's got would be a great like reward. Like this, it's been cursed by. It also fell into some sort of cursed state, but now that he has been laid to rest, you can use it, and it's good, obvious stuff. But sometimes, again, I think it's all very cliche. It might be a strong term, but it's good for it. It's like the vampire. It's all great stuff, and it'll work super well no matter how many times it's been done.
It's a really good character arc.
It's going to be so fun to play as that character, or to DM that Death Knight. Maybe the Death Knight taunts the naive paladin.
Yeah, that could be a great early moment on. Yeah, making fun of them for like, because they can in a way be like this other paladin can be maybe reminding them of themselves and how foolish they were back then. And you will see.
I remember my first beer.
Yeah, I remember lay on hands.
I remember when I had hands.
Bones now. Yeah, but it's one of those ones where it's super melodramatic in like the funnest way possible, I think. And you could just have a Death Knight who's like a silent stalking monster, and I think it does that pretty well as well, because it is very physically intimidating in terms of what it can do in a fight. And how
there's nothing wrong with powerful martial skeleton.
Again, and because that's what the ring wraiths are. If you want to really go deep, the ring wraiths have loads of like lore and story to them, but functionally in the story, they are just a unkillable monster that stalks forever.
You could totally have them as like there's just like legend of the Death Knight itself, like just going around. Everyone's like, ooh, yeah. There's like a chill. It's like the Wild Hunt as well. Like. Everyone just hates them, but fears them.
You want to have the opportunity to learn about it, but you don't have to make it. You don't have to go super in depth. This could be something that's an ancient. Like this, their story is long forgotten.
Oh yeah, that's very good. I think that's what you're going for. Like the armor's rusted off.
Yeah, this guy's got nothing left. This is some ancient battlefield.
Because he just rises anew.
It's like it's like the thing that they did is so long forgotten that it's maybe not even applicable to like the current way the world is, so they can never
Imagine like an ancient, like almost like Bronze Age Death Knight. I'm like kind of obsessed with like Bronze Age things for like D&D and like going really far back, and I think that could be very cool. Ancient battlefields are always a great place to have undead as well.
The as well, I guess, there's something which we've kind of been doing without even thinking about it.
Sure.
We've always been making them humans.
You know what? I am aware of this issue and I always think about it, but then I never act on it. Which is like, it's like all half races are always half human. And like tieflings are always humans with demon heritage. You are right. Why not have a Death Knight who is... I mean, Dragonborn isn't obvious because like Dragonborn Paladin's like a big thing in D&D. Or a dwarf. Interesting. It's true of like all like undead really. The default is to think of them as human.
I think it's because of often it's humans with their short lives, scrabble for power and life beyond.
Yeah. But you could have I think a dwarf, because dwarves have a whole like thing about grudges and long memories and being very angry about sort of thing. And I think that could work.
I wish D&D had the Book of Grudges.
Yeah. I mean, that could work really, really well for a Death Knight, I think.
And now I'm thinking, oh, dude, it's so good with the dwarf idea of he's in a destroyed dwarf hold.
Yeah.
That he brought to ruin.
Yeah,
because of some
in the same vein as that story that you told me before, where it's like maybe it was an accidental thing that happened, but he's stuck down there now. It's like collapsed ruin that you excavate into. Because
of dwarves are clans,
Yeah.
Maybe it's an entire clan put to ruin from tradition because maybe they were doing what they do in digging and he didn't want them to uncover something definitely evil down there.
Yeah.
But that goes against everything about that and he ends up destroying his whole clan.
Yeah, in a way, because the way oaths work in 5th is not quite so rigid as it has been, and like I don't see why you couldn't have a paladin whose oath is to his clan as opposed to being to a god or something. It wouldn't necessarily be the most law for anything to actual D&D, but we've never really held that being too important. I think telling a cool story is more important than making sure you're playing as Gary intended.
And then legions of undead dwarves would be pretty fun.
And then you can like mess with the skeletons like stats or whatever it is to or any of the undead to make it fit. It would be cool. And of course, like, I mean, I've done it. I've drawn a super skeleton with a sword, but swords are overused. Make a dwarf Death Knight and give it an axe. Give it a Vorpal axe. That'd be
Warhammer.
Don't give enemies Vorpal weapons. Don't do that. That's not fun.
No, give them Vorpal weapons, but only tell the players after when it drops.
Oh no,
it's a Vorpal weapon.
Yeah. Oh dearie me.
I love the sword, the defeated sword.
Yeah,
like that's very cool.
There's gonna be he's over here. There's an arrow. He's back there.
Because sword's always been really brash.
Yeah, swords. He's the one who goes in.
Yeah. So I like it.
So obviously Norman's off screen. Maybe I'll just do a hand coming in. That looked terrible. It would ruin it to put another person here.
Don't put him in. It's fine.
Anyway, numbers. I agree. I mean, I have gone on record multiple times and said this is my favourite monster, and I do not feel too much different about that. If anything, I've remembered things that are cool about it that I had forgotten. So I'm at 20 because it's in my top 3.
I have a number that like has hit me.
Yeah.
And it is 18.
18. I could.
But I'm happy to move from that.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. But like just like that's just like the gut chucked that at me.
Like I mean, if we're being very like, they're so cool and
they are
so that like everything we talked about is just so badass about having one of these guys fight the party in any way about who and if you use them right.
Yeah.
If we do bring up the obvious point of the fact that they are translating 17.
Yeah. I mean.
And they're gonna really put a dent in whatever they fight. I'm gonna go an 18 as well. It was my gut idea, and if you guys were going a bit lower, I was gonna go down to 17.
Sure.
Yeah. I could see a 17 as well. It's probably more my number, but I could see
a 17.
I'm more an 18, I think. more 17, but I can go to 18.
From like an objective point of view, because what I want, I think I could actually see a 17 in a way, because I kind of want to give it more stuff. If I were to do a Death Knight, I wouldn't just take the stats of the Death Knight in the book. I would do things. I would give it layer actions, probably. We gave Vampire a 16.
Yeah.
Because Vampire doesn't fully realise what Vampire should or could be in D&D. This, I think, fully realises what the Death Knight has to be. There's things it could be even more, which would be even better. So I'm happy to go 17 because it's still above Vampire. It's most like,
Ooh.
There's a few more details about it.
Yes.
Spot the addition.
Oh my god, he's got a +3.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. His +2's got a glow. Well, yeah, he's got little dots on it.
I'm noticing there's the glove on the floor as well. I don't remember.
Well, it's a suspiciously full glove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
What's going on there?
Who could possibly say? But yeah, there's I don't know. It's very grey, but also very pink. And I'm colourblind, and pink and grey are like very, very similar colours for me.
Oh, okay.
So this is a very weird one for me to look at, but it's very strange. There's a lot of colours.
I'm really liking the clash. It's very anime.
Yeah, I think you done a really
Thank you. I wanted the hellfire. I think is the fire like pink and red.
Yeah.
I felt like that was sufficiently necrotic / fire, but because you know fire isn't red. It's yellow and orange and black and white and stuff.
When I personally do necrotic, I always do black and greens.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think that might be coming from like your World of Warcraft with the Fel magic.
Yeah, Fel is that. Yeah.
I feel like that's
Warhammer's got that a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I can see that.
Necrony, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did, as I say, I did do another one. So let's have a look at the second one.
I forgot.
A bonus picture.
Bonus pick.
I forgot about this treat we're having.
Oh. He's so thick.
He's so huge. Rematch.
How old is he?
50 to 100 years later.
That beard is. Oh my god.
I'm so in. He's He-Man.
It's huge. He's too big for armor.
He's like he looks a bit like Zeus.
I'm so in.
He's become a Greek god.
He's Herculean.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
I love it so much.
But yeah, I've decided he's lost his hand. The right hand is gone. He's got a magic hand here. So we're going to, at some point, give him a magical hand.
That's great.
Between now and this era.
That's great. Every hero needs to lose their hand at some point in the story.
Because I was thinking, we talked about Darth Vader a bit as well. I was like,
we did. Yeah.
That's Star Wars. Lose a hand. Classic. That's what happens. Obviously, this Death Knight's got some head modifications. He's put his armor on, but
he's got
it's called Sirius.
Yeah.
Let's get serious.
The other one was too dour. It was a little too down, a little bit too brooding. So something more over the top.
But now it's triumphant.
Ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, we can only hope that he wins. Yeah. Maybe an old Norman will return for like Ancient Dragon and stuff like that. When we need a superpower.
When we need a Norman that won't get absolutely toasted.
Yeah. No, yeah, this is him with a few more. He's got some experience under his belt, which he presumably is still wearing. You can't see because of his huge leg in the way.
Yeah.
Very easy. The bigger the leg, the less body you have to draw.
It's actually around his bicep now. Like.
Oh yeah, it's on the other side. Well, again, if you look at this is a fair point. If you look at the first picture, the flying sword, which we've established is at least like 6 feet long, doesn't go up to like the rib cage of the Death Knight. Yeah. So he's very big. And I also realised, but I don't mind it, the scabbard I drew for the sword that the Death Knight is like sheathing implies that the sword is like a one-handed sword for him, despite its very big handle.
Right.
But I quite like that.
Yeah.
I like that. It's fun.
I think it is actually one-handed in the book as well. Like.
Yeah, it's like a long sword, so it can be one or the other probably. And I have my own opinions about what short sword and long sword means in D&D, but we won't get into them because they're pointless semantics.
And also, let's be real about how people always talk about like big swords and dual wielding. It's always from a human perspective. This guy's clearly a magical undead skeleton warrior. Like he can wield a greatsword one-handed.
He can do what he wants.
Yeah.
He's very big. He's very scary. He's fine.
Is it time for that bit where we try and think of funny things to say and fail miserably?
No, it's the bit where we think of really funny things to say and succeed hugely.
That's nice.
It's a new segment.
I can't wait. I'm really interested to see this new segment and how it goes.
If you've had a skeleton of fun watching this episode, you can always subscribe for more.
I feel like that was weak, but I haven't got anything better. Surely we should save that for skeleton.
It's happened now.
I mean,
Damn.
you've drawn a skeleton. Like
No, he's got an orb. The regular skeleton can't have an orb. Fact. And the regular skeleton has a scimitar.
Checkmate, atheist.
Do you remember when you turned level 3 and you took your oath to subscribe? It's time to do that. Otherwise, you'll become an oathbreaker. And when you die, you might become a Death Knight.
Okay.
And then you'll be a tragic hero who must be destroyed.
That sounds really cool. That's almost encouraging them to not subscribe.
Well, only if you've become a level 3 paladin and taken your subscription oath, and then subscribe for a bit and then unsubscribe, like when we've got more, so it's not so it doesn't sting so hard. When we're famous, you can unsubscribe and become an oathbreaker and then become a Death Knight. But for now, you've leveled up. Welcome to your paladin oath. No, that was 2 subscribes though. Damn.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up after, so I guess my one doesn't count then. So
no, I apologise.
This is all falling apart.
Yeah.
Swear your oath in the comments.
I thought you said that we were doing it good this
Swear
time.
your oath in the comments.
Swear your oath in the comments. Write out your paladin oath of subscription to this channel in the comments. Oh, I cast compel like video. You gotta pass a wisdom save or whatever.
You gotta like the video or fight me in 1v1 combat.
Yeah, that's the rules. If you can't come fight us because then we'd have to say where we live, and you shouldn't do that.
And I'd lose.
Online. Yeah, we there's a good chance of us losing. Maybe it's all 3 of us versus 1 person.
Speak for yourself, guys.